Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
Welcome to episode 541 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. Brandon King is on assignment. My name is David Rhodes, and we also have Jeff Johnson. We're trying to do something different here for Dr. Cavil's show, and I would like to say it is an honor to have the opportunity to do this. We're going to primarily focus on the Indies, but we're also going to talk about some of the other HBCUs as well. But this is going to be primarily our perspective from the independents, as Dr. Cavil would say, Hampton, North Carolina A&T, and Tennessee State at the major level. We are filming from our home studio, sending a live signal at KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, Ralph Cooper, in beautiful home of Texas. Well, not at Texas News, but at my house and at Jeff's house as well. So Jeff, man, I appreciate you coming to do the show. As for those who don't know Jeff, he's one half of the HU Pirate Ship that covers Hampton University athletics, and it's great to see you on the show, man. How's things, man?
Oh man, things are lovely, man. We're blessed, man. Blessed to be here. It's fall time, so it's football time. So, we're definitely excited about that. And, just love being on this platform. And this is the best time of the year because that's when the drama gets started. So love being here.
We got a lot of the drama already. That's for sure. So far, so good with the drama. Now, so we got a good one for you guys today. We got a couple topics, but let's talk about some news that's been going on in with regards to Tennessee State and Hampton and other things in HBCU. So Jeff, what you got for us?
All right. So first of all, Hampton, we lost to Morgan State. That was the biggest one that we had, I would say, as far as Hampton is concerned. But Morgan State under David Wilson, he really played. When we watched him over at Bowie State, we knew this guy was going to be one of the up and coming coaches in the HBCUs. And I think quietly, he's building a program because he beat Richmond last year, and Richmond was a playoff team last year. And so I would say that's pretty much one story. Second story I wanted to go with is Tuskegee's fall to Johnson C. Smith, and the CIAA domination of the SIAC. Tuskegee has always been a perennial power, and just watching them just fall to Johnson C. Smith, and that score was pretty much close for the majority of the game, but it ended up Johnson C. Smith got away with a 21-13 victory. So, and then, they're going into BT Harvey to play Morehouse next week. So I'm interested to see how the CIAA, performs, against SIAC in the next coming couple of weeks, because I would definitely pretty shocked. And last one I would say is Clark Atlanta. Keep your eyes out on them. And so that's pretty much it.
I will say this about Johnson C. Smith. It's amazing to see where they came from, because I remember when I was younger, man, they never was really good. They weren't good. And now, they're a legitimate threat to win the CIAA. I mean, we still got to worry about the Virginia schools. We got Virginia Union, Virginia State. But I think Johnson C. Smith could surprise some folks, and they might get an opportunity to have a chance to get into that CIAA championship game. So the big article I want to talk about, we're going to veer off from football for a couple seconds. We're both of our institutions are in the CAA, and Tyne Ross was impressive in his collegiate debut in volleyball. She won the CAA Rookie of the Week. So she we played North Carolina Central, which I aptly call the school down the road. Played them 2 straight games. We played 1 game in Greensboro, played the opener in Greensboro, and then we went to Durham to their place, and we ended up sweeping both games. But in the back-to-back matchups, Ross had a historic night. She had 15 kills, and that's the most that an Aggie freshman ever had in a collegiate debut. So shout out to her and the conference award, the weekly conference award that she received. So now I will get into Winston-Salem State and A&T. We're going to get into that game later today. And we're also going to get into the history to y'all rivalry game that y'all got too. We both got CIAA, old school CIAA rivals coming to our town this weekend. But we'll get into that. We're going to get into that later in the show because we got to have a discussion point about it. And you might not like what I think about your game, sir. So it'll be
we don't either.
It will be a fascinating discussion. But shout out to Chuck Hunt in the chat. Shout out to James Knox and HBCU Band Talk in the chat. Shout out to Edwin. Appreciate you guys watching, man. I really appreciate the support with regards to the show. We got the Wildcats in here. We got your rivals in here, man. We got Virginia Union in here. So it's gonna be a fun one. What's going on, ODB? Shout out to y'all for coming down. Dr. Cavil unveiled his major poll yesterday, and I really want to get into it. I want to dig in it a little bit. I want to give you my thoughts, and I'm pretty sure Jeff's going to have some thoughts when he sees it. Jeff has not seen it yet, so this is going to be fun. So we're going to go ahead and take our first break, and when we return, we're going to have the discussion point on the polls. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, grab me one too.
Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. As we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This Script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true.
Gotta get the corners.
You can press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome back to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. All right. We need to talk about Dr. Cavil's top 7 polls. Shout out to Silas. And and the thing for me when it comes to polls, everybody has a criteria when it comes to their polls. But I know you haven't seen it yet, so I'm fascinated to see what your thoughts are, Jeff. And then we can bounce at it back and forth and have discussion points about some of these teams. But before we pull the poll up, one thing I will say. Last weekend of college and HBCU sports, I believe there's probably like 5 teams you probably can put at number 5. Or there's probably like 5 teams, right? So for me, it's at that point you're some people goes off wins and losses, some people goes about who they played. So you just kind of, it's a preference thing at this point. I know it's all dependent on that when it comes to that. So if you could bring up the poll, and we can have the discussion on the poll. All right, so here's Dr. Cavil's top 7. He has number 7, the Alabama State Hornets. Number 6, the Delaware State Hornets. Number 5, the Texas Southern Tigers. Number 4, Tennessee State Tigers. Number 3, the Morgan State Bears. Number 2, the HBCU National Champion Florida A&M Rattlers. And number 1, the school down the road. And you can see the name up there. So thoughts on Dr. Cavil's top 7, and we can go team by team and have that discussion point.
Let's go with number 7 first. Alabama
Absolutely.
State. Now, I watched that game in its entirety, even though it was delayed, and I don't see, like, I bought it. I didn't buy into the hype, I would say, earlier on in the preseason rankings. I did not buy in the hype last year, and just watching that game pretty much confirmed exactly what I thought. Their quarterback situation, not even as shaky. You have one quarterback who can't throw, but he can run. And the other guy just looks like he's a dink and dunker. And I'm just trying to figure out what is everybody seeing that I am missing. And for them to be 7th, maybe there's I didn't watch them a whole lot last year. I saw a few games, but I just don't see the hype around Alabama State like everybody else. I feel like there are other programs that can definitely take their place. Your thoughts on that?
So for me, I understood the hype because of the pickup of Andrew Body from the portal, right? So I completely understand the hype from that standpoint. I completely get that aspect, right? I think the problem I had when watching the biggest dilemma I had when I was watching the game was that, one, that defense wasn't the same defense. At least opening in the game, it was not that same defense. Number 2, the offensive line was not nearly as good as I thought they would be. And we don't even have to get into the quarterback play. I mean, some of the points, most of the points that they scored was off of broken plays. Right.
Yes.
So for me, and it was when Andrew Brody was working miracles with these broken plays.
Pretty much.
So for me, I can understand him putting Alabama State at 7. I don't have an issue with it. The quarterback situation is going to be fascinating to see. They have Miles College coming up this weekend. Which is not a win. Is depending on the quarterback scenario, is not going to be as winnable. I understand the scholarship difference, but Miles is a pretty good football team.
So there's no pushovers.
There's no pushover here. So from that standpoint, I could see it depending on the performance against Miles, Alabama State falling out of the top 7 and potentially the top 10 in my eyes. I still have him. I still have Alabama State in my top 10. But I had them pretty high. Like I thought they were going to win the SWAC. But after what I saw, and it's week to week, and everybody can overreact, and I can do that. I have a habit of that. But I don't. If they have to have a pretty good performance against Miles for me to warrant them to stay this high.
Absolutely. And I definitely feel sometimes Eddie Robinson gets too emotional on the sidelines, and I think it gets in the way of, I would say, the X's and O's with that guy. So I would definitely look at programs like Norfolk State, even though, they had a good defense last year.
I would have thought they would. I expected them to have a step back? Yes, I would have, right?
Yes.
However, I didn't expect this far back. And that's the point. Like they're missing some of the guys. They're missing Bubba. Like it's clear.
Okay,
right?
So explain to me what happened to Bubba.
He graduated.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he's done. Yeah, he's done.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I really like that guy.
All right. let's go to number 6, Delaware State Hornets. I have Delaware State in my top 5, so I'm not. I'm not mad at this. And part of the reason I had them in my top 5 was I felt like, considering all the circumstances those guys went through getting into Hawaii, they fought in that game.
Yes, they did.
You could argue they had one so far. When you talk about FCS versus FBS programs, they had a valiant effort, one of the better efforts against an FBS program. I mean, it was them, A&T. I thought Howard did well.
Yeah.
I feel like those guys had a valiant effort against their FBS counterparts.
No, I totally agree, because I watched them play against Hawaii, and then I turned around and watched UCLA play against Hawaii. When UCLA struggled against Hawaii, so I definitely feel that Delaware State quietly will creep up further. Because nobody has their eye on them. Delaware State has been, I would say, a seller program, I would say, for the past decade and even more. So I mean, and we got a new coach, and some of the old coaches came from Hampton's old staff. So I always knew that those guys could coach if they got the right personnel. So possibly this could be it for them, where they could sneak up into a second or third place in the MEAC, or maybe first.
Yeah. Absolutely. It'll be interesting, man. They didn't get the best draw. I'll tell you that.
No.
I'll tell you that. They didn't get the best draw.
And I'm gonna say this, Sacred Heart really ain't that good either. But
but an FCS out of conference win, like
that's big.
We talk about all the time how it's important to win these games.
Yes, and they won it.
And they did it. So I'm not gonna discredit it. All right. Yep. And they won that conference a few years prior. Like 2 years ago, they won that conference.
They did.
Yeah. So let's go to number 5, Texas Southern Tigers. Big win against Prairie View A&M. First time they beat them in 9 years.
Yeah, huge win. My thing with Texas Southern is, like, they will have these blips every couple of years, and then they'll go away. They're a program that I really do not watch. I always felt that they have the facilities, they got the stadium. And it's just like, why hasn't it not come together, I would say, as like a program like a Prairie View? They're in Houston, so they're in a really good recruiting hotbed area. So my thing with Texas Southern is the stability. And it's like, it feels like there's always going through coaches. It's just that I think that is a little bit too high for them. And go ahead.
I don't now. I'm not mad at Texas Southern at 5, and I'm gonna and the reason it'll be close. Like, okay. I don't have them at 5. Like, I had Delaware State at 5, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not mad at Texas Southern at 5 because, and I said this last night on HBCU Nightly as well. A lot of folks questioned the coaching hire. I mean, a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And for him to come in and pretty much pull this win, and it wasn't like a close game. It was pretty dominant, and a lot of folks expect Prairie View to make it back to the SWAC championship, right?
Yeah, true.
So to do that,
yes,
I have no issue with Texas Southern at 5. I think it'll be interesting to see how they continue in the SWAC West and things of that sort. But now I think folks' eyes have to open just a little bit, because I think the West is wide open.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the West is wide open. So anything can happen. Like, I always dubbed SWAC West chaos. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's gonna come down to something. Like, it's gonna come down to the final week. It might come down to the Bayou Classic. Like, that's just how the SWAC West is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I do like Chris Dishman's. I would say that he brought like some of these coaches that he brought in, I've seen on the radar, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, and I think, and that to me, just goes to the bigger thing with Texas Southern coaching. It's one game, but you can definitely see how much better they played just by this one game alone. My concern is has he rebuilt the culture in one game? And I still need to see more, definitely, with Texas Southern. But I would say good job so far. I would put them maybe top 10 at the 10 spot. but I would kind of need to see more. And let's see who are they playing next anyway? They are playing Rice. Okay,
They're playing Rice. Yeah,
Rice,
like
Lamar.
we gonna be like it. You can still
Okay.
see things in those type of
Yeah,
games.
yeah.
But
yeah.
like, I mean, we're gonna root for them to win, obviously,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But it's just
yeah.
you gotta.
Yeah.
But I mean, Texas Southern sometimes they play. Some of these SWAC schools play Rice hard for a period. So I'm gonna be keeping my eye on that game. I will say that.
Yeah.
So we
definitely.
got number 4 Tennessee State Tigers. The score against Valley is an increment of how dominant they were. They were up 31-0 in that game.
Yeah.
So I can understand it. Eddie George has high expectations this year from the standpoint of there's the expectation for them to potentially win that conference this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see with Tennessee State. I think it's a little too high for me, a little too high for my taste. And it's funny, I kind of sent the rib to Dr. Cavil because I felt like Howard should be up here, man. I know they played Rutgers. I know they lost. I know you're not a fan of them, but I think Howard should be up here, man. Like I have Howard at 3 on my list. Okay. So I felt like Howard should be up here. I understand they played Rutgers.
Yeah.
But I felt like what I saw in that game, their fronts, man, they coming, bro. They coming for y'all.
Oh, trust me, we know. We know. Like when I tell you, folks are not just scared of Howard, they scared of the next game coming up. And I know we'll get to it. But as far as Tennessee State, that quarterback, Draylon Ellis, man, 21 for 33, 356 touchdowns, 3 TDs. And I'm sitting here saying, like, they finally got that guy. And I really liked the offense that Eddie George is putting around him. Then he got the Dean kid. I forgot his first name. 9 receptions. I think he had about 140-something yards, 1 touchdown. Had a long 55-yard pass. I'm just sitting here like, where has this been? It's always been a wait-and-see approach with Tennessee State, but I feel that he got the O-line in and he got the speed around him. So I'm really impressed with what they have done. I do think that they will be a force in the Ohio Valley because it's being, we see it too in the CAA. There's not really no speed there. It's just big offensive line and defensive lines. And you can just definitely see the difference when they played Mississippi Valley State. And I like them at 4. I would keep them at 4, because knowing what we see in these independent conferences, I think that they can definitely hold their weight.
Oh, there's no question. They'll get the opportunity to too. They're going to play Howard at Howard's homecoming this year, so we're really going to get to see some things later on in the season for sure.
They spank them.
I know you do. Number 3, Morgan State Bears. I'm not mad at them at 3. I think they have the best defense in HBCU.
Yeah.
Like I'll stand by that. I think the only thing that stops them from winning the MEAC conference is an offense.
Yeah.
No, that's the only thing that's going to stop them.
But that offense has gotten better. I know we're going to talk about it in the next segment, but Damon Wilson, like that defense, oh man. Like, you got to understand, Elijah Burris, our running back, people are looking at him as CAA Player of the Year. He held that guy to very few yardage, to the point that we had to say, okay, scrap the running game. We're going to have to put him out in space and just throw the ball all day. So I definitely feel that Morgan State doesn't not get enough credit as it should get. So I definitely like them there at 3. I won't ever put Howard in the top anything, but okay, that's just bias. But yes. Morgan State definitely, with a good offense, definitely could challenge for number 1 and 2.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think Morgan State, like I said, they're offense away, man. And I think we saw some of that against y'all, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
When we get into the next segments. That is Torrance. I completely agree with you. You have to pass consistently with a combined with a strong run game. But I think the run game still runs the show in that conference. Like, you got to have the ability. Like, trench play is so important in that conference. Like, that was the big thing I saw last year with A&T in their first year. But we can get into that. That's a whole show if I want to.
Yeah, a whole show.
A whole show. Let's get the number 2, man, the defending national champions, Florida A&M Rattlers.
Man.
I'm not mad. Like, I felt like you could pick between them, the Rattlers, and the school down the road. You could pick either one, and I can't be mad. I had FAMU number 1, which is fine. But and understandably so. But if you had that school down the road number 1, got it. Not gonna argue. I'm not happy about it, but not gonna argue with you about it.
No, I can agree. I would just say this with FAMU. That slow start they had with Norfolk State, I know this just first coaching jitters, but Norfolk State, I would say for that first game, they somewhat exposed, that run defense. And my first thought, I didn't know what to make of Colsey as a coach. It's like every time you saw him on the interview, it felt like he was rushed, he was haggard. You just didn't kind of get an idea of what his style was. But then when I watched them against Norfolk State, of course he was down, but he literally shut them down for the second half. So he definitely has some very good coaching prowess. And I really liked how they have, I would say, tilted the offense to fit that new quarterback they have. So there are some things that I would say that still gives me concern for them to be a number 1 team. But I would say so far so good. That I definitely feel like they're going to repeat in the SWAC. And leading to that team that you don't like, oh man, that quarterback is nice, that running back is nice, that offensive line is big, and I'm sitting here thinking like, it might be a lean year for y'all again. But go ahead, man.
I don't want to hear these things. So here's my thing about FAMU. That's been their MO.
Yeah.
Starting slow has been their MO.
Yeah.
That is one similar thing that they had when they also had Willie Simmons last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they started slow against Howard, they started slow against South Carolina State and Norfolk. So I feel like they know how to close games. They've been there before. They know they've been there before. It'll be interesting to see if they can continue that role in the SWAC. Before this weekend, I thought Alabama State's going to win the SWAC. It's going to be a tough sell for me at this point. But I think it's between FAMU and Jackson State, who's not on this list. And
don't get me started with Jackson State, man.
No, listen, man. I'm trying to protect your timeline, sir.
Absolutely not. No, I mean,
I think those are going to be the two that's going to duke it out in the East at this rate.
Yeah, they'll duke it out because there's nobody else I would say probably could step up. But Jackson, no. And when we talk about the MEAC and we talk about that school down the road, I think them and Morgan is going to be what it's going to be for. Yeah.
Like that, the MEAC is so. There's so much parity in that conference, man.
Yeah.
And I talked about this on another show. Don't be shocked if Delaware State clip somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're gonna cost somebody a chance to win the they're gonna cost one of those guys, one of those top guys, a chance to win it.
Absolutely. And the MEAC, I would say pretty much all the teams are similar, dominant run games, big backs, that's the MO of the MEAC. And I definitely feel like if you go from top to bottom, like Norfolk State's line averages like 350 pounds. That center is 6'7". I'm sitting here saying, good Lord, I'm just South Carolina State the same way. So, that's definitely been the MO from top to bottom. So I do think that it will be, this probably kind of feels like the most competitive year the MEAC will have,
Oh, yeah.
Because none of these teams, I would say, are down teams or having down years so far.
Yeah, I agree. But all right, this was a good discussion point. So let's get into our next commercial break. When we return, we're going to talk about our games from last week.
Yeah.
A&T's game from last week and Hampton's game from last week. So we'll be back after the break.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome back to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Jeff is temporarily on assignment. He'll be back in a second. While he's away, I'll start discussing A&T versus Wake Forest. So A&T lost to Wake Forest 45-13. They did cover the spread, which was the positive thing from that aspect. But one thing that is clear right now is that A&T has a quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. As one thing is clear. A&T has a quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. We have sophomore Kevin White. He got the start against Wake Forest. He went 10 for 15 for 116 yards. To put it in perspective, last year in our opener against UAB, we only threw for 16 yards. And Justin Fabi is the backup. He's a grad transfer from Houston Christian. He came in and he went 5 for 10 for 36 yards. So we had over 152 yards passing in this game, which is a vast improvement from last year. Our offense looked really good. I felt like our offensive line did well. We were able to push a power 4 team defensive line for a period of time. We had a couple linemen that went down, but we found out that they were okay after the game during the press conference on Monday. So that is a good sign. We got a 1-2-3 punch in the running back room. So we had Kenji Christian. He had 16 carries, 121 yards. Westy Graves, 19 carries, 70 yards, over 200 yards rushing. We lost yards from a play when the center hiked the ball and over Kevin White's head, and that ended up being negative yards that we got. But overall, man, we played a pretty good game. When you go up against these FBS programs, the big thing you have to start thinking about is you got to understand you have the scholarship deficit, but you also got to see how the trenches play against them. And I think overall, I think the trenches played well. Our defensive line did have some challenges. I won't kid myself with regards to that, but I think in the first half overall, we did well. I mean, we were in this game. We were down 17-10 at the half, right? We took the lead at one point during the game. I like to hop in I like to hop into other opponents' forums during the game occasionally, and they were not happy in the first half. And we had a kicker that kicked a 51-yard field goal in that game. That helped us cover the spread. So I think overall, I was happy with the results. We're going to talk about our games next week after the break. But overall, I was thrilled with what I saw from the offense because I felt like last season our offensive coordinator caused a lot of challenges from that standpoint. We can get anything going. And this time I feel better about our offense. And I think our defense is going to be fine. Our defensive line bulked up 20 pounds average for the line. So I think, that puts us in line with everybody within the conference. So I think we're going to probably have a legitimate chance to compete within that conference. But time's going to tell. We're going to have we have Winston-Salem State this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend is going to be our conference opener against Delaware. So we're going to get an idea of where we're at before we go play that school down the road on September 21st. So what about you, sir? Y'all had a look, man. I watched that game, Hampton versus Morgan. That was a barn burner, bro. That was a good game.
It was definitely a good game. You got to give hats off to Morgan. They played one exceptional game. We knew going into the game that, from the fan perspective, that Morgan State was no pushover. We both beat Richmond last year, And we knew that, okay, this is not the same old Morgan State. David Wilson came in from Bowie, and we literally knew that that defense was going to be stout. Now, just by going on the stats alone, matter of fact, we threw 216 yards worth of passes, and Todd Smith from Morgan State only had 75 yards in the air. He was sacked 4 times. We were sacked none, and we still lost. So that shows that our defense primarily, I would say, our defensive line to me was, I would say, something that was surprising for us because our former head coach was a defensive line specialist, and we could never seem to get to the ball. But now we have an intern coach in here. Now we can get to the ball at will. We can get to the quarterback at will. So these were things that we were seeing. We were like, okay. But the biggest issue was Todd Smith, who I wouldn't say he was a great passer, but if it was 3rd and 17 or 3rd and 10, and we had a few 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12s where we got to him, but he was able to wiggle out and scamper for another 15 or 20 yards for a first down. These were the backbreakers that we had during these games. So I think there was a couple of coaching miscues that, we had, primarily an onside kick to start the game. We did an onside kick. They recovered, and within 3 plays was in the end zone. I mean, if you were, I would say from a fan's perspective, if your defense, I would say, is shaky, if your secondary is kind of shaky, doing a doing the onside kick to start the game, I understand the surprise, I understand the aggression, probably wasn't a smart thing to do. And the fact of the matter is we lost by maybe 2 or 3 points. So that onside kick was crucial. So as for, I would say, offensively, we have a 2-quarterback system. I would love for one quarterback just to take the reins and just win the job. We had Christopher Zealous last year, who I would say pretty much was one bright spot for the offense last year. He's I would say more of a running quarterback and a read option type of guy. And last year he was great, but Morgan pretty much was ready for him. They basically just tried to keep him in front of them, and he ended up throwing some bad picks. Got pulled. Malcolm Mays come in. I would say he's more of a polished passer, but sometimes he feels like he's unsure. But he did have, I would say, 185 yards. So the passing game is okay. But Morgan State's defensive line really stopped our number 1 rusher in Elijah Burris, who was in all types of preseason polls, the CAA preseason polls. Some even voted him to be CAA Player of the Year. And he only had close to 45 yards.
43 yards, 15 carries. I was stunned.
Yeah.
Because of how good he is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, that shows you how good Morgan State's defense is.
Exactly. It got to the point where his only score came from he had to literally run out in space, and they just did a little swing pass to him. And it's just that for us going forward, our biggest improvement always will be from week 1 to week 2. And so for us, Virginia Union is coming. So
yeah, we're going to talk about that one after the break because I got some thoughts. I got some thoughts, man.
So, but overall, I would just say that we had some key moments there. Certain players, Kevin Johnson was pretty good. 3 catches, 70 yards, 1 touchdown. And but outside of that, some of the other guys that we were expecting a lot from, Kamari Gray, Christian Greenlaw, Dorian Moultrie, we didn't really see. So just offensively, we need playmakers, and we lost one last year in Roman Copeland, who transferred to Austin Peay. And so if we got another playmaker out in the slot that can create space, we'll be okay.
Yeah, man, I watched that, and it was a really good game to watch.
Yeah,
the game was on Flow Sports. It was a good one. I was concerned. Y'all might have been the best team to handle the 2 quarterback system so far that I've seen.
Yeah, well,
I agree that you should have just one guy. Like I'm not a believer in the QB platoon system, right?
Yeah.
I felt like at the end of that game, if you're gonna pick somebody, I think Malcolm Mays won that job, and I really do. Like I think Malcolm Mays won that job. Like,
and you know what?
Go ahead.
No, go. No, you finish. You finish.
Now, I just feel like he was more poised in the pocket.
Yeah,
he was able to execute. And he can scramble a bit, so he gives you the best of both worlds. He didn't turn the ball over.
Yes.
So, like for me, I felt like after that game against Morgan, he's won that job.
Oh no, absolutely. Interesting about both of those QBs, they both started in successive seasons. Malcolm Mays started 2 years ago for a full season, and Zealous last year for a full season. And the former, I would say, the former offensive coordinator, Zach Peterson, who left this past year, he, I would say statistically did well passing with Mays, but running, they led the conference, and they were top 5 in the nation in rushing with Zealous. And so it's like, pick your poison. One can't throw, the other can only pass. So we'll see. We prefer Mays, but against Mays kind of fades against bigger opponents. So you'll see. Zealous had won big games last year for us.
No, absolutely. Y'all won a decent chunk of games last year in the CAA. So, but I want to go in and take this final commercial break and talk about the games that we have next week. So we'll be back after this.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
Welcome back to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. So now we're at the final segment. We're gonna discuss the games we got next week, and we're both going up against old school CIAA rivals. And for A&T, it's the first time of us playing Winston-Salem State University since 2010. And the last time we played them, they did beat us. But then they were in the MEAC, and A&T was going through their super funk. Crazy enough, in 2010 they went 1-10 too. Yeah, go figure, right? So my thing when it comes to the Division I, the FCS Division I HBCUs versus Division II HBCUs, these games aren't supposed to be close.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be close. There's a scholarship deficit. You should, in theory, your trench play should be large, should be bigger. Mm-hmm. You should have better skill position. But there are some Division II schools that got some guys and guys that can play. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That can play. And Winston's got a quarterback, man.
Yeah.
Dalen Lee, he's legit.
Mm-hmm.
So man, y'all are really beating us up, man.
You know what?
That's a whole episode about the A&T and Hampton's decisions to move out of the MEAC. But I don't want to get into that today.
We gotta get over that, yo. Leave it alone, man. It's done. Please stop. We're not coming back. Like, we will never come back.
I'll never say never. I'm never going to say never.
Yeah, it's not that we're never going to come back, but like what the agents say, save face, we are not going to do that. We're not. You would get at us for centuries about that. So no.
Yeah, it'll come and go. It's like social media; things come and go, right?
Exactly.
So I think for A&T, with what they did against Wake Forest, they should be able to dominate these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like I believe that in my soul. Like they should be able to dominate these guys. I would be concerned if this game's close, because I feel like we got a new OC. We brought in a lot of good recruits. Our quarterbacks got more experience, got another season under his belt. I think we should be able to dominate these guys. I think Winston's going to surprise folks in the CIAA.
Yeah,
but I just think it's not going to be their day on Saturday. Like I don't believe it will be. I'm going down to the game, so that should be fun. This is my first time going to an A&T Winston-Salem game because when I was a student, they didn't play each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be a phenomenal matchup, to say the least, between A&T and Winston-Salem State. But I expect it'll be a historic matchup. It's a rivalry game. Hopefully we won't have to wait 14 years to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I expect A&T to roll in this one. I truly do. Your thoughts?
No, I definitely feel that they'll definitely roll this game. I would say that Brown has really recruited like his guys, and I really, from what I saw against you guys against Wake Forest, it felt like a totally different team from last year. Okay, I wouldn't say totally different, but it felt more of, I would say, if that was his personality, strong, smart, because he always talked about intelligence. So they felt like more of a CAA program. And Winston-Salem is a program, they're, I would say, a flagship CIAA program. But from what the horses that A&T has, it should not be close at all. I mean, it'll probably be competitive for maybe half a quarter or a full quarter, but I just don't see Winston-Salem, putting up no more than maybe 7 to 10 points on the board. So.
All right, so we only have 5 minutes left. So I want to get to your guys because you guys are playing Virginia Union.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something.
Yeah.
What they did to Kentucky State was not fair.
Kentucky State's a junior high program.
Nah, I ain't doing that. Man. 69 unanswered points. Nah, I ain't doing that one.
Yeah.
So here's my concern with y'all, and I'm gonna be honest. Jada Byers is real.
Yeah, 211 rushing yards.
Jada Byers is real.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm very concerned that if you guys don't show up, like y'all did a really good job stopping the run. No, y'all didn't do that good job stopping the run against Morgan.
No, we did a terrible job.
So I got to confuse what Morgan did to Burris. So you guys have to figure out how to stop Jada Byers.
Yeah.
This is going to be rough.
It will be, but I will say this though. We got a defensive line now officially. So we don't have linebackers. That is our issue. That is a concern. I will say this though. We will have to be offensive this game. So a lot, and I'll say this too. Alvin Porter, was it Porter? Was A&T Central's coach.
Trey Oliver.
Yeah. No, not in the Central. Virginia Union's coach. I'm sorry. His name escapes me, but
his name escaping me too.
Yeah.
Pull it up. You got me thinking.
Yeah, Alvin. What's that guy? Lord have mercy.
Gerald.
Yeah, Alvin Parker. I was right. Alvin Parker. Okay. He's a Joe Taylor disciple. So if you for us, reason why we're so scared because this is a Joe Taylor imprinted program. Joe Taylor, the AD, brought in a Joe Taylor-like disciple. Everybody that is on his staff believes in the same philosophy that Joe Taylor had. Big offensive lines, big defensive lines, big running backs, possession-style receivers, control the football, control the clock. And when we lost to them in 2019, it was a Joe Taylor game. It was his big moment to stick it to Dr. Harvey. And every time And the players have taken on that actually mantra from him. And so they're going to come into Hampton with the exact same mentality. Now, they did come, I think we played them back in 2022, 2021. And it was close for 2 quarters, and we finally blew them out. But I do feel that this will be a definite problem because Jada Byers, 211 yards. He ran through Kentucky. Now, will he run? He's not going to run through us like that. I hope not. But there is cause for concern because we do have a problem stopping the run. But we got some good coaches. Hopefully they know what we're going up against. The fans are putting pressure on it because we do not want to feel that embarrassment that we had in 2019. And I promise you, it was horrible. It was you got to understand, because we were in the Big South then. And the message boards from Hampton losing to a CIAA program from them Big South fans, they didn't even know that Virginia Union existed. And so it was oh, you're such an embarrassment. And it was just terrible.
Yeah, so you're talking about the Big South. Imagine if you guys.
Man, look, all I can just say is, look, guys, he's an intern. But
he's an intern.
No, real talk. We really a lot of us really like him. And so I want to see him succeed, but you cannot lose to Union. You can't do it. I'm sorry. Jada Byers has to hold him to at least under 60 to maybe 80, then we'll have a game. And this is
he's going to get 100. Y'all just need to hope he doesn't get 200.
The problem, exactly. But the problem is, why is he at Virginia Union and not at Hampton or at A&T? That's my issue. It's how did y'all let him go there? I'm sorry.
That's true. All right, we got to close out. Thank you for listening to Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you follow our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I'm David Rhodes. This is Jeff Johnson. And shout out to Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, for the opportunity. We hope you enjoyed. And again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. And this is the Indy Report with myself and Jeff Johnson. And make sure you check them out tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time and Sunday, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Make sure you follow Dr. Kenyatta Cavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All right. Course, Jeff.
What are they saying?
Man, you just as bad as me last week. It's okay, man. Roy, help him out, man. Help him out.
Oh, man.
It's all right.
Lecture.
Roy.
Dave, you said the course.
I did say the course.
Yeah. So lecture and
dismiss.